never made it, but I know what it takes. I'm motivated by a mix of emotion. Got my statement, and I'm reading it slow so I can understand it fully. Appreciate my standing, go out of this world and right on time. Oh, never in my life have I seen the sky light up like this. I'm far away from Earth and I wanna know if you exist. Mission control, do you read me? Send me my coordinates lately. Mission control, am I drifting? Tie me to someone who will love me, yeah. Wait, I think I'll last a bit longer. Find another.
Welcome everyone. Welcome everyone. Welcome everyone to another Ref Brandon and the Todd Family YouTube video. Wherever you are, whatever you may be doing, thank you so much for making Ref Brandon and the Todd Family a part of your day. We always greatly appreciate it. Don't forget about Southern Fried Championship Wrestling coming up Saturday night in Monroe, Georgia. And don't forget about UWF Wrestling coming up Sunday afternoon in Colbert, Georgia. And also don't forget to go to prizepicks.com and enter the keyword Ref Brandon, because that is your chance to double your deposit up to $100 just by entering the keyword Ref Brandon at prizepicks.com. But today, here on the channel, we're going to be talking some football, and I'll get to my main topic coming up here in a couple of minutes. But first, I want to throw this out there real quick, because I've talked about it before here on the channel, how you just can't please people this day and time. No matter what you do, they're always going to find the negative. They're always going to find the downside. That's just the way people are this day and time. But the NFL is not the most watched sport in America by coincidence. They know what they're doing. And I've talked about it before when I talk about Las Vegas, how if you're in the gambling world, or if you just look at it just out of curiosity, whether it's baseball, basketball, hockey, football, whatever, sometimes you look at the over-unders and the team's win total and all those kind of bets they put out, and you look at it and you scratch your head and you think, man, Las Vegas is crazy. But 9 times out of 10, they end up being right. And how you know that is the fact that gambling is getting more and more popular. If Las Vegas was losing money, all the casinos would shut down and there would be no more gambling. So for them to be growing and adding more and more casinos and more betting lines and more sports, that tells you they're growing and they're gaining money. Well, the NFL knows what they're doing. It grows in popularity every year, and it's not by coincidence. They know what they're doing. And ever since about 8:30 Eastern Time Sunday night, all I've heard is everybody complain about how bad the halftime show was Sunday night. And here it is Thursday now. People are still complaining about it. But the NFL knows what they're doing. The halftime show Sunday night had 118 million viewers. The game itself had 113 million viewers. It was the second most watched halftime show ever behind Katy Perry. Now, I will freely admit that I look at TV ratings just out of curiosity, because I like to see what's doing good, what's doing bad, what's gaining in popularity, what's losing viewership. So I do look at them, but I will freely admit I don't fully understand them. You look at that stat just as a good example 118 million people watched the halftime show. 113 million people watched the game, which basically means there was 5 million people that only turned the halftime show on, and then when the halftime show ended, they turned the channel. Well, my first question is, if you're not watching the game, how do you know when it's halftime? And my second question is, these people that are supposedly looking at the viewership numbers and getting viewership numbers, how can they look at your TV and know whether or not you're watching just the halftime show or you're watching the game? How do they know? Is there a little birdie on your shoulder that's telling them what you're watching at an exact moment? I don't understand that. But the point of it is that just tells you that the NFL knows what they're doing. They brought in Rihanna, and guess what? She had more viewers than the actual game did. As I said, second most watched halftime show ever behind Katy Perry. And I don't understand people's complaining. Me personally, I didn't like it, but it's not because it was anything she did or didn't do or sang or didn't sing. It's because I don't like that kind of music. Never have. When I watch halftime shows, I don't determine whether or not I like it because of what they do or don't do. I determine whether or not I like it based on the genre of music they sing. If I don't like the kind of music they're singing, I don't give a darn what they sing. I'm not going to like it. And when I was watching The Clash in the NASCAR world 2 weeks ago, at The Clash, they have a halftime show. They run 75 laps, have a halftime, and run 75 more laps. And they had a guy singing. I want to say his name was Wiz Khalifa, but I'm not positive. But anyway, in my opinion, that was terrible. But it's not because of what he was doing or singing. It's because that's not my kind of music. But honestly, at halftime shows, you only get 15 minutes to perform. So what do people expect? In 15 minutes, you can't have a full-fledged concert. So what are you supposed to do? You don't really have a whole lot of time to do a whole lot except either sing 2 or 3 full-length songs or sing a minute or two of 10 or 12 songs. That's really all you can do. So you can't really go into it expecting a whole lot because you're not going to get a whole lot. The years they bring in singers or a singer that I like it. The years they bring in singers or a singer I don't like it because it's not my kind of music. And nothing they do is going to change that. If I don't like your music, I just don't like your music. But that's just my personal opinion. On to today's main topic. And I have tried my best not to talk about this any this week because I wanted everybody to get my opinion and thoughts on it at the same time. But one of the guys I go to church with named David did message me on Facebook yesterday and ask me my opinion on it. So I told him, but other than him, I have not brought this up to nobody else because I want everybody to get my opinion at the same time. And I want to know how you feel about it. And that is Mike Bobo returning to Georgia to become the new Georgia offensive coordinator. What's old is new again, as the old saying goes, since he has been there before and he is now back. And it's funny because in my video yesterday, when I was doing the top 10 countdown for the week, talking about NASCAR drivers, I mentioned Joey Logano and how Joey Logano's one of those drivers where it just seems like no matter what he does, people just do not like him. And he can win every single race and win every single championship, and people still hate him. I don't know what he's done to make everybody hate him, but he is extremely hated. He's probably the second most hated driver in the Cup Series right now behind Kyle Busch. Now, I know people hate Kyle Busch because for about a decade, Kyle Busch won just about every single weekend in one of the 3 series back when he raced in all 3 series pretty much on a full-time basis. And when you win, people hate you, just like back in the day when Jeff Gordon won, people hated him. But when Logano first started, he didn't win, but people still hate him. Well, I kind of feel that way about Mike Bobo, because I feel like, for whatever reason, it seems like 95% of Georgia fans hate Mike Bobo. And I've never understood it. Even though he's been gone from Georgia for 8 years now until this recent return, ever since he's been gone, there are still Georgia fans that complain about Mike Bobo. So yeah, they're wrong for living in the past big time, but at the same time, it's like, why are you complaining? The man's gone. He's not there anymore. Why are you talking about him? It just seems like 95% of Georgia fans hate Mike Bobo. So I want everybody's opinion on this. If you're a Georgia fan, I want your opinion. Even if you're not, I want your opinion, as long as you can be objective. You can be a fan of a team and be objective, and you can also not be a fan of a team and be objective. Everybody knows that I have my teams in every single sport, but I am not favoring my teams at any time. If my teams do anything bad, I'll tell you. If they do anything good, I'll tell you. And I try my best to do that in every single sport and not be showing favoritism, so that everybody knows I'm giving my honest opinions. And when it comes to Georgia, people know I'm not a Georgia fan, but I can still give an honest, objective opinion. So I wanted to give some stats from Mike Bobo's first tenure at Georgia, which lasted for 8 years, from 2007 to 2014. In 8 years, Georgia averaged over 30 points in all but one season and had a top 50 scoring offense 7 times. In the history of Georgia football, they have averaged 40-plus points a game in 2 seasons. One time was under Todd Monken. The other time was under Mike Bobo. Between 2007 and 2014, Georgia scored the 17th most points of any school in the country. They were top 50 in passing yards per game in 5 seasons. One year, they ranked top 25 in rushing yards in all of college football. So that shows that Bobo can run the ball, and he can also throw the ball. Georgia averaged 5.6 yards per play every season that he was in charge of the offense. In his 8 seasons, there was only 1 year they didn't average at least 4 yards per carry. 6 of the 8 seasons, they averaged 4.5 yards per carry. And Mike Bobo was a 2012 Broyles Award finalist. And you can go back and look game by game, if you do so choose, in his 8 years, and you see that Georgia was consistently a good offense back when he was there. Now, I will say 30 points a game 10, 12 years ago was good enough. But the game of football has changed so much. If he comes in now and they only score 30 points a game, they're going to lose a couple of games because the game of football has changed so much. 30 points a game was great a decade ago. Nowadays, 30 points a game is average. You'll win most games, but when you play other top 5 teams, they're going to outscore you. That's just the way football is nowadays. But you look at Georgia's talent, and talent-wise, they're worlds better than they were 10, 12 years ago. So if Mike Bobo scored 30 points a game with only average offensive weapons, and now they have great offensive weapons, you would think that they're going to score 37, 38 points a game now. They may not, but you would think that you would if you score 30 points a game with only average players, and now you have great players at every position. You would think you're going to score more points per game because you have better players. Now, Mike Bobo doesn't have an explosive offense like Monken did, so you may not go out there and score on a 4-play drive or a 5-play drive. It may be a 15-play drive, but a touchdown drive is a touchdown drive no matter how you get there. But Mike Bobo was always balanced the whole time he was at Georgia. If you go back and look, they were consistently a balanced team. There were games where they mainly ran the ball, and there were games where they mainly threw the ball. But overall, top to bottom, while he was there, they were a balanced offense. And Mike Bobo believes in being a balanced offense. So my first question is, what is it that makes Georgia fans just completely, totally hate Mike Bobo? And I feel like poor Bobo can come in here and put up 60 points in a game, and Georgia will lose 61-60, and it'll be Mike Bobo's fault. And the second question is, do you think this is a good hire or a bad hire by Kirby Smart? Because honestly, really, truly, Georgia has such good talent. I don't really think it matters who calls the plays. When you're better at every single position than the other team, you're going to move the ball no matter who calls the plays because you're just better than they are. There will be 1 or 2 games where Georgia's defense is going to struggle and they're going to need to score. But outside of that, they can line up and have anybody calling plays and they're going to score because they're just that good. So in the grand scheme of things, in my personal opinion, it doesn't matter. But I'm just curious because there are so many people that hate Mike Bobo. And I know when I made the 61-60 comment, it sounds like I'm being funny. But I said that because I remember distinctly one game when Mike Bobo was at Georgia. I think it was against South Carolina, but I'm not positive. But Georgia lost the game 45-42, and all I heard the whole following week was how dumb Bobo was. And my thought process is you scored 42 points. If you score 42 points and you lose, it is not because of your offensive coordinator. When you score 42 points, you should win. If you don't, look at your defense, not your offense. But Georgia fans did that because there was a play late in the game where honestly, really, truly, it looked like Bobo made a bad call. He made the wrong decision. But when you scored 42, it shouldn't come down to that. Your defense should stop somebody. So I know it sounded like I was being funny, but in reality, it's happened before because they scored 38 points in another game while he was there, and he got the blame for it. So if it happened last time, it'll happen this time. And there was one year he was there where Georgia was top 10 in the country in every category. Points per game, passing yards per game, rushing yards per game, and people still complained about Mike Bobo. So I think he could come in there and Georgia could score 75 points a game and have 5,000 yards of offense, and Georgia fans would still say, Bobo sucks. They've just concluded that they don't like Mike Bobo, and that's never going to change. Just like most Clemson fans when they had DJU as their quarterback. Luckily for him, he's transferred now. He ain't got to worry about it. But when DJU was at Clemson, it didn't matter what he did. Most Clemson fans had already concluded that they didn't like him. He could have had 95,000 passing yards in one game, and it wouldn't have been good enough. Because once somebody's made up their mind on a player, you're not going to change him. So any thoughts on this, please feel free to let me know. Don't forget about Homes for Our Troops, the publicly funded 501c nonprofit organization that builds and donates specially adapted custom homes nationwide for severely injured post 9/11 veterans. Since the 2004 inception, nearly 90 cents of every dollar spent has gone directly to our program services for veterans. Visit at hfotusa.org. Let's go ahead and get our dad joke of the day in here. Why don't polar bears and penguins fall in love? Because they're polar opposites. And that wraps it up for today's Ref Brandon and the Todd Family YouTube video. Until next time, it's Ref Brandon saying, just like in pro wrestling, life can be over by the count of 3. Tell your friends and family how much you love them. Bye.